everyone, and welcome back to the Zeldudes podcast. This time, Echoes of Wisdom. What'd you think?
Oh, yeah. A lot. I'm thinking a lot, man. But first, we'll start off with non-spoiler discussion, and then, because there's a lot of things we want to talk about, but yeah, overall, what is your opinion about the game? Is it the best top-down Zelda, or is it the worst top-down Zelda?
That's fighting talk, I think. Best 2D or best top-down, again, we're going to get comments for calling it 2D.
We'll stick to top-down.
Let's stick with top-down. I think it's too early to say whether it's definitively the best top-down. I'm not sure. I think if it was the best top-down, I'd already kind of have that opinion. It'd be like pretty instant. I don't know if I could call it the best top-down Zelda, but it is amazing.
But it's
really, really great. Yeah. And I think, obviously, it's a Zelda game. My expectations going into it were astronomical, as they always are, which has burned me before. You know, with Tears of the Kingdom, it didn't live up to what I wanted it to be. Echoes of Wisdom, my expectations were still massive because it's Zelda, but I think they were a little bit more restrained because it's top-down Zelda. We'd only known about the game for a couple of months before it came out.
There you go. That's the most important thing. We didn't wait 5 years.
That's it. Yeah. We hadn't had 5 years of theories about what it could be. So when it came out, got to appreciate it for what it was, and what it is just a really, really great top-down Zelda game. And I assume you're in the same boat as me on this.
Oh, yeah. For me, it is a perfect blend of old school and new school Zelda. It is something for every Zelda fan. If you're someone who loves Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild and want Nintendo to continue that path, this game is great for you. If you're someone who just misses old Zelda formula and wants some traditional dungeons and kind of re-exploring Hyrule in a more grounded sense, this game can work for you as well. It's really do it your own way, and because of that, the game is so just, to me, like, it works with anyone. I feel like any player can play it. Like, yeah, we're looking at this game, and a lot of people already are giving the game the kind of stigma of, oh, it's the girl game, and it's the Super Princess Peach Showtime of, you know, the Zelda series and all of that. But like, well, there is a little truth in that statement, in the sense of, like, the game is so much different. It almost doesn't feel like a Zelda game. It still, at its core, is a Zelda game, and because of that, it's, I don't know, to me, it's a really good game. Like, I enjoyed it a lot. I absolutely loved it. I wouldn't say it's my favorite top-down Zelda game, but I would say it's definitely up there. Like, I think the only game that maybe beats it is A Link Between Worlds, but I've been a Link Between Worlds fan since day one. Like, I've been obsessed with that game and wanting a port of it. I don't know. Just for me, something about A Link Between Worlds just feels like the definitive top-down Zelda.
I completely agree.
Truly mastered it. Yeah, like with Ravio, the items, picking yours, like, that was truly the best direction for top-down Zelda. But this is a nice breath of fresh air.
People in the comments aren't going to be surprised that the Minish Cap is like my child. I love that game, and but I do appreciate that a lot of that. I appreciate that a lot of my opinion of that comes from that being my childhood Zelda, and the fact that game is so, like, it's like dripping in charm. It's just gorgeous. The story.
That's what I'm saying. It's not nostalgia for you. I can see Minish Cap is such a good game for what.
I think there is a little bit of nostalgia, but I think that's inevitable.
No, of course.
I've got nostalgia for Ocarina of Time, you know, like, but that's still an amazing game. You know, I don't think nostalgia takes away from how good the Minish Cap is.
Exactly.
But I kind of agree with you in that I think A Link Between Worlds it's kind of the final evolution of the classic Zelda formula, because it's A Link to the Past, which I think, for anyone's money, is the biggest, most complete top-down Zelda, with the exception of A Link Between Worlds, which is A Link to the Past, but kind of bigger and better. And I think Echoes of Wisdom, it was a difficult fight going up against a game like A Link Between Worlds, because it does reintroduce a lot of classic Zelda elements. So this is the non-spoiler section, so we'll get into all of this in detail later on in the podcast. But it does have dungeons. It's got classic Zelda progression, which is something that we've all been so starved for with, you know, Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom.
With structure.
Story with structure. It's got, you know, twists throughout, which is just, it's what you want from a Zelda game. Just a game that follows the formula that we all expected. And it's a formula that works, because clearly everyone I know that's played Echoes of Wisdom, you and I, there's varying degrees of it's good to it's absolutely amazing. I haven't heard many people that didn't like it at all. And I think that just goes to show that having a structured Zelda game is a winning formula. There's a reason this series has gone on for almost 40 years. Zelda games are just good if you kind of, follow the Zelda formula. And although Echoes of Wisdom does all its crazy, new mechanics, new open world style, which we've never really seen in top-down. You mentioned, Ravio's item shop and A Link Between Worlds, which was a pretty open game, but nothing compared to Echoes of Wisdom. But I think in many ways, Echoes of Wisdom does what Tears of the Kingdom tried to do better than Tears of the Kingdom did it. In that, obviously, Tears of the Kingdom is a completely different experience. It's massive, it's epic, it's hard to compare. But Tears of the Kingdom tried to do this whole sandbox stuff, and it's technical marvel that it works on the Switch. But for me, I know for you, for a lot of Zelda fans, the complete lack of Zelda structure in that game is what let it down. And Echoes of Wisdom, like you said, perfectly marries the old Zelda formula with this new avant-garde, crazy new mechanics and whatever creative stuff they want to put in. It's tethered to the Zelda formula, and you get a winning game out of it. It's just amazing.
And it's interesting you say that like Echoes of Wisdom tried to kind of do what Tears of the Kingdom did, but better, like a more definitive way. And there's a lot more to that in the sense of like how every Zelda fan, including you and I, thought, well, I say every, but a lot of Zelda fans thought that Zelda had to be a playable character. Like, this is it. Tears of the Kingdom is the game. They're hiding it from us. And then Nintendo's like, yeah, no, we didn't have that plan. But you know what? Screw it. We'll make a game with Zelda playable. With all, like, everything you expected for Tears of the Kingdom will be in this game instead, which it really does feel like that. And, like, this is a game where... So Nintendo, a lot of their development time went into playtesting and just creating the Zonai vehicles. And that was supposed to be the true, new life that would be brought to Tears of the Kingdom versus Breath of the Wild. But here's the thing. A lot of Zelda fans just didn't want to get behind it. They didn't get it. And that did hold back. Again, we're not here to talk about Tears of the Kingdom, but my point is them now making that a core mechanic in Echoes of Wisdom. And literally we're taking away your sword and shield. Hell, Link that you want to play as, you only get a little moment to play as him. And then you have to use his power sparingly because we're not going to let you keep it for good. And because of that, it forces you to use these new mechanics, and you actually see the beauty behind them. And to me, it's just like, maybe that's what Tears of the Kingdom needed all along, like something to really strip the player and force them to use this new type of mechanic that Nintendo added, because a lot of people just shrugged it off, and because of that, we didn't see the value in Tears of the Kingdom,
Exactly. I suppose, it's because in Tears of the Kingdom, Link has these new abilities on top of just the base foundation of being a badass fighter with a bow. A badass, there you go. Whereas Zelda has to fight as... it's kind of like... It's like a mage, like a summoner class or a necromancer class almost even.
It's so cool.
She spawns minions to fight for her, which is really cool. And I think, to do something as crazy as that, it did require... kind of being locked into it, if you know what I mean. Because I know you kind of played Echoes of Wisdom a little bit like me, which was kind of, you used your sword fighter form and then it ran out. And you're like, I kind of wish I had the sword fighter form back. Which I think comes from playing Zelda all our lives. We get to play as Link for this tiny little bit. We kind of want to little bit more time with Link, but the fact is that you can't play as Link for the whole game. You do have to play as Zelda. You have to use her echoes for combat and stuff. And we'll get into combat properly in the main segment of this podcast. But being forced to work out that combat system was really rewarding, because at the start of the game I didn't really know what to do. I'd throw choo-choos at the enemy and just kind of, or ropes or a pea hat, and just kind of sit there, like spawn the enemy, just kind of chill out and wait for it to do its own thing. But then the more I played the game, the more I realized that there are actually, there's tricks to this. And a lot of echoes will attack as soon as you spawn. So there's many echoes that you can use as sort of a delayed magic range attack. You just spawn the echo, they do their attack. You respawn them, they do their attack. And it really did take a little bit of getting used to, but you're right, the fact that it forced you to do that, whereas Tears of the Kingdom didn't as much, I think, I don't know, maybe it just helps you get more in the headspace, and also playing as Zelda gets you in the headspace of, yeah, this is something different. We're going to have to get used to it.
And you appreciate
it plays different.
what you have as well. Like, it definitely is a game that it's crazy. It's the type of game where no matter how you solve it, there's probably an easier and better way to solve things. And because of that, it makes the replay value really good as well. And to me, it's like, it does have a slow start, but not nearly as slow as Tears of the Kingdom or anything. I just think overall, it's just, as someone who doesn't really want to commit to a game, this is like the perfect game to kind of just fiddle with, you know, versus like Tears of the Kingdom, where you have this mountain of content that you have to climb over. And when you do become out of touch, it's probably hard to get back into, when this game is just like, again, it's the formula done right. I guess that's what we're really trying to boil it down to.
Exactly. And you're right, it's a good game size. I agree. It's like Tears of the Kingdom is hundreds of hours, and it is quite overwhelming. Whereas Echoes of Wisdom, you can 100% it in, I don't know, 25 maybe hours. Yeah, a week. Yeah, sure.
Like a week of like, well, it depends on your schedule. But for me,
whereas Tears of the Kingdom is an actual week, like 24/7 week of playing.
Yep. I literally beat the game within 3 days, but I was playing it all day, like, so. That could be
you went a bit nuts when Echoes of Wisdom came out.
Way too ham. Yeah.
Your blind LP. Yeah. It's cool though, because it's such a different game that. Yeah. Right?
I couldn't get enough of it.
Yeah. No, I'm sure most people listening to this will have been the same. As soon as you got the game, you didn't want to put it down. Yeah.
But okay. I'm thinking, you know, we've said our piece. You know, if you're someone who hasn't played the game, hopefully we've sold you on the game, right?
Right, it's time. Yeah, if you haven't bought the game, you haven't played the game, go play Echoes of Wisdom, then come back, and then we'll talk some Echoes of Wisdom. But
it's big boy hours, or big girl hours.
It's big boy time. You got our verdict. It's good. Go play it. There you go. That's a spoiler-free review.
Yep, exactly. Game good. Good game.
Game good. Yeah, Zelda good. There you go. What a surprise. Yeah.
But okay, you ready then?
Let's go. Let's open up the spoiler tin.
The spoilers.
Spoiler tin? Is that a thing? I don't know.
I guess the can of it's a spoiled can of good. I don't know. Okay, you know what? I'll just stop as well.
I was gonna keep going. I'm glad you called an end to whatever that was. But yeah, okay, right. With no holds barred, Echoes of Wisdom. So, I mean, we kind of touched on it in the spoiler-free section, but expectations versus reality. So, where did you land on this? So, where was your hype level for Echoes of Wisdom first, and did the game, I don't know, where did it fall in regards to what you wanted it to be?
I would say it exceeded my expectations in the sense of like, I didn't really know what to expect from a new top-down Zelda game, as it's been over a decade. Like we said with A Link Between Worlds, that was it. That was the last one. You could argue Link's Awakening, but that's just a remake. So I didn't really know where Nintendo was going to go with this, especially knowing that this is going to be the biggest overworld. Yeah, I do think it's funny that Nintendo claimed in interviews, oh, it's 8 times the size of Link's Awakening. Okay, that doesn't mean anything. Like, give us a better metaphor. Like, how much bigger is it than A Link to the Past? 2 times? It might only be 2 times the size, because the game really just kind of expanded its borders, and that's it.
Exactly. It's hard to kind of measure it up with other games, because also Zelda moves very slowly, but then she has the ability to move very fast with some different mechanics. So it's very hard to line it up with other Zelda games. It is definitely the biggest, but I don't know. I got the feeling once you've been around the map, it kind of feels a little bit small.
It feels small, exactly. Like, you can traverse Death Mountain in 2 seconds. You can traverse Faron in 3 seconds. I'm exaggerating here, but don't try to time yourself. Like, oh, it's 5 seconds. But I think my point is, I'm sure you can agree, is the game definitely at its core, in the middle of the game, a lot of surprising new things that just blew you out of the water. The mention of the Triforce, the lands of the goddess, all of that. But, and I kind of said this at the end of my blind LP, it had like a sour cherry on top of the beautiful sundae. It's such a great package, but like the ending did kind of, it didn't actually reach my expectations. I was expecting a little bit more.
Interesting. What? in terms of the boss fight or the story?
I would say it's
beats,
abrupt. Like, even recording the final episode, I didn't know I was done. I thought Eternal Forest, then we reunite with Link, then there's one big showdown, but like it just kind of all happened at once. Even the Great Deku Tree section was just kind of like, here, enter the secret shrine underneath me and get to the end. So it was cool nonetheless, but like, again, it just seemed way too sudden for me. Maybe I just wanted more. It could just be I'm greedy and I'm just like, give me more game. Let me play.
I kind of expected a final dungeon. I mean,
same. That's
Null's
what I'm
body
saying. Yeah.
is dungeon.
Wasn't.
There's a few rooms, but it's not
a
dungeon.
dungeon. Yeah.
Yeah. There's no keys, so.
And in reality, then there's no difficult dungeon in the game outside of Lanayru Temple, and because of that, I don't know. I was expecting something to really test me.
Yeah, Lanayru's the most difficult.
Yep.
At least it was for me, at least. But yeah, I think overall, Echoes of Wisdom was. If I did have a criticism, one of them would be that I think the game was too easy. I don't know whether they're deliberately aiming at a younger audience with this, maybe with the kind of chibi art style and stuff. And I felt the story as well. I mean, we'll get onto the story later because I've got a lot of good to say about Echoes of Wisdom's story. Really happy with it overall, but the kind of minute-to-minute story, so like the dialogue between characters and also the little moral of each mini story throughout the game does feel very dumbed down and childish. And I know a lot of Zelda story on the surface is kind of childish, but you know, there's depth to Zelda.
There's heart, and there's a lot of heart.
And there's depth to this. There is. And there's a lot of heart to this story. Every time it played that little, you know, the kind of slow version of the main theme. Every time like two characters made up or realized that, I don't know, like, you know, Darston realizes, oh, I have to, you know, do things my own way, and it plays that little song. For some reason, I don't know where. Oh, we'll get onto that, but for me at least, it's, you know, that the meme where it's like the monkey and it's like neuron activation or something.
Yeah.
For me at least, it was that. Whenever it played that little kind of soft version of the main theme, I kind of, you know, got a bit emotional at the end of every mini story. But yeah, my point was that overall, it does feel. If I did have anything approaching a criticism, it would be that it does feel a little bit easy, a little bit childish in some ways. And I don't know whether that's something that they're deliberately doing. I don't know if they're deliberately aiming for a younger audience this time, as opposed to the, you know, Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, which are aimed at older, slightly older generation, maybe. I don't know. Yep.
Or just like they know it's going to be it's going to have a broader reach because of the art style and the setting. Because, like, I'm sure Nintendo. I'm sure someone out there, Nintendo, knows that this game is still catered to a younger female demographic, with it being a female lead and super cute looking and everything. But, you know, as a Zelda fan, you don't care. It's like, it's another Zelda game. I want to play it. So, like, I can't get mad in the sense of like, oh, this game is a lot easier, but it's like, oh, but it is definitely just a different direction of Zelda altogether. It is purely a cutesy style game, but wrapped with the Zelda kind of concept. And again, that's a problem because I know a lot of people who won't even consider this game because they think, oh, it's a children's game. But like, it really isn't. And I hope the sales show that like Nintendo can still make games like this, and that, you know, there are children like us who are going to buy it and love it to death. So
that's the thing. Zelda fans aren't going to be put off because, you know, we've all played Wind Waker. We know that a childish looking Zelda game can actually be the greatest video game ever made. But it's but I think you're right. I wonder if with the art style and perhaps the difficulty level of the game and of the writing as well, maybe they're kind of trying to take a little bit of a swing at, you know, the kind of the Animal Crossing audience. Like, what did that game sell? 45 million, something 35 million? I don't know, crazy.
But let's be real, those weren't just children. Like, that was everybody. And also probably the time.
As in, do you think that might... I mean, COVID helped, of course, with Animal Crossing sales. But I wonder, a little bit of me wonders that maybe the super childish visual style and everything of this game and the difficulty level could be aiming at sort of those people that wouldn't normally pick up a Zelda game to think, oh, it's action adventure, don't really like sword fighting in games or whatever. But there's this one, it's, you know, it looks like a toy. You're a summoner, which is a little bit, you know, combat's a little bit more hands-off,
you don't have to do the heavy lifting. Yeah.
Exactly. I wonder if there was like a conscious decision to try and aim at a much wider audience. But yeah, it is interesting what you said. I wonder if by aiming lower, as in age demographic wise, they then kind of lose a different audience. They'd lose, you know, the Twilight Princess, you know, the Dark Souls sort of, that sort of gamer who won't touch a game like Echoes of Wisdom. So I don't know. I wonder if there's a bit of a trade-off there. But yeah, I think difficulty and everything. I did want it to be a little bit harder. I don't know. Have you experimented much with hero mode? Because I said the first time I played the game to myself, I was like, that was too easy. Then I played hero mode, and there was genuinely we're in the non-spoiler part. We're in the spoiler part, sorry. So yeah, the Ganon fight in Steel Hyrule Castle. I was there for like an hour, maybe like 45 minutes, an hour, dying over and over and over to that boss, which I'm not used to in Zelda games. Like unless it's Zelda
even
2
the hard ones
or something. Yeah. Like, I don't know. What about you? Was there any... A, have you tried hero mode? And B, are there any bits of the main game that gave you trouble?
Okay, so I've only... I live streamed my hero mode experience, so I've only done like 2 hours worth. But I'll be honest, from the first... Not even the Hyrule Castle Ganon fight. From the first Ganon fight with Link, I was already like, oh, okay, this is for real. Like,
he does 9 hearts damage or something.
Right? Yeah. And in general, Zelda has pretty poor defense. Makes sense. Again, she's like a mage. So like, yeah, no, you can die from one hit from a lot of enemies within the game. So I think hero mode really does add to it. But I do think it's a bit too hard. There needs to be a balance. Like, the game is too easy, normal mode, but it will be too hard for some players hero mode. Like, you have to literally clench your butt cheek, hope you don't get hit, try to hide. You know what I mean? Like, one moblin, just one easy swipe, you're dead. Just straight up, you pop a fairy bottle. You know,
that's it. But that's the thing. It's a weird hero mode in that I think Echoes of Wisdom, for my tastes, is slightly too easy on normal mode. Then hero mode, I find the difficulty about right in some cases, but then what I mean by weird hero mode is it works the same way as classic hero mode, where enemies do double damage and you can't spawn hearts, so you can't break pots, cut grass, kill enemies. They won't drop hearts, so you can't recover hearts. But it's Echoes of Wisdom. You can spawn a bed and heal there infinitely. Or you've got smoothies. Or you've got 4 fairy bottles in the game. So it is weird. There are elements where hero mode is incredibly difficult. Like that Ganon fight where he was doing, you know, silly amount of hearts damage to me every time I got hit. But then there's other bits, like, whereas in a normal hero mode, there would be, I don't know, say a long section of a dungeon where there's no opportunity to heal. So it gets difficult just through, you know, the amount that you're playing without stopping. Whereas Echoes of Wisdom, there's none of that. As soon as there's no immediate threat, even in hero mode, you're back to full HP because you got a bed.
Yep, literally,
Which is weird, and
yeah. It's such a new game design that you can't, you know, like, I guess I'm not too upset. Maybe Nintendo was playing it safe in the sense of like, maybe a lot of people wouldn't have received it well enough if it was meant to be this challenging. But I don't know. We say that, and it's like, a good example, and we mentioned this before on the podcast, don't worry, we won't pivot too hard, but like Elden Ring is a game that it's like either get good or don't play. And it's like, I mean, sometimes that's a good thing to follow. But again, okay, I think just in general, Nintendo, at the end of the day, they are a family company, and they're more likely to cater games for a younger demographic than an older demographic. So I think that alone is like, why you gotta kind of...
I completely get that, but hero mode, you toggle on yourself. So I think that gives them license to make that as, you know, Kaizo crazy as they want. Which it is
to an extent. I mean, like you said, to an extent, I mean, you can, but you're right. They should have just straight up, if you have hero mode on, beds don't heal. Least.
There you go.
Right?
I think I would have been much happier with that.
I genuinely thought that too. Like, I was flabbergasted when I got on the bed. I'm like, huh? It still heals you? Like, then what's the point? But I guess they look at it as like you have to literally be idle. And I guess in a boss...
That's it, if there are enemies in the room, that you can't really do it that easily.
So if anything, let's just jump, you know, we're in spoiler section, so let's just jump to the very end right now, because if anything, I just thought about this. So the final boss, right? We were really talking about how the game is easy, right? So we both thought the final boss was super underwhelming in the sense of, like, you didn't do much, right? But then we both figured out
I've changed I've changed on my second run. I was much happier.
Because apparently, and I didn't think about this in my first run either, is you can use bind, so maybe you can do a little bit more work, but like in the final boss, I was straight up spawning beds and sleeping while Link's doing all the work, and I was like upset at the game, like, this is it? This is the final boss? Like, I want more, but like, little did I know, I could have done a bit more, but let's be real. I don't think, it's definitely not, it probably wasn't enough. Like, them stripping away the sword fighter ability, for me at least, felt weird, because it's like, it's cool that Link is acting like my echo, but like, I usually engage with my echoes. Can I come help you? Like, I don't want to just stand still. But again, bind, I guess I didn't really think of bind much. So
when in a bind,
I feel like I gotta, use bind, right?
There you go.
When in a bind, use bind. Yep.
Yeah. But I felt the same. The first time I beat the final boss, I just sat there spawning Lionels over and over and over, and I didn't do anything else. And Link did all the damage. And I felt like you. I was a bit like, I thought it was very cool playing alongside Link, especially Null's body going through that with Link in another room. I thought that was sick. I was so happy with that. But then the final boss, there was a few moments where I was like, I'm just pressing the spawn echo button and that's all I'm doing.
Yeah.
I didn't love that. But then the second time, you're right. Yeah, you can use bind on the arms. I don't know why I didn't think of that the first time. It's the adrenaline. I'll blame it on that.
Okay.
But yeah, the second, it was so much better because I'm, pulling the arms with bind. If you pull Null's arms, they kind of like stretch out and go white where they're really strained. The AI for Link knows that. He'll run over and do a spin attack and cut an arm off. And there was moments where I felt like I was in synergy with the AI Link, and it was really great. And it was, I think I got glimpses of what they'd obviously envisioned going for this type of final boss. And I think, if you do it properly, like as in properly, it's Echoes of Wisdom, but as in like using bind, I do
use all the
think
mechanics. Don't forget.
Yeah, play exactly. Then I do think it's a good final boss. I think there is legitimate criticism to be had of the fact that they let you use Sword Fighter for the whole game, get so comfortable, use it on every boss fight in the game, then they take it away for the final boss, which kind of leaves you like, I don't know how to fight without Link, and it kind of reverts you back to the start of the game in some ways, which is a bit jarring. Although I definitely, second time around, I think it is a much bigger improvement. And I think in terms of final bosses that have let me down on the first times I've did them, I think this is still leagues above some of the worst ones in the series. Like Breath of the Wild's Dark Beast Ganon is always my go-to example of like this amazing, gigantic, epic open adventure, and then they tried to end it in the same way with this epic open final boss fight, and it just flopped. It was just it was like a shooting gallery. The boss didn't
Has
move.
no one at Nintendo played Shadow of the Colossus? Like, pick up a page from that.
Right.
Like, let us
And
scale
even, like, when
Ganon and stab him.
Exactly. When you go back to like old interviews for Ocarina of Time, they wanted to do that with the Ganon fight in that game. They wanted to have a climbable Ganon, but I think it was, hardware limitations or something that meant they couldn't do that. But you don't have those hardware limitations with Breath of the Wild. If we were climbing Dark Beast Ganon, you're right, like Shadow of the Colossus, that would have been amazing. And I think, to be fair, that's one point I've got to give Tears of the Kingdom. I think the Demon Dragon, still a little bit easy, still a little bit of a cinematic more than a battle, but way better than than Dark Beast Ganon. About to call him Divine Beast 100%. Ganon. But
in general, Zelda's definitely a game where it's a combat, like combat is, if Zelda was a the Triforce is in Zelda, but like if we had a Triforce of the core things Zelda brings in its gameplay, it would be essentially combat would be one of them, then it would be puzzles, and the other would be pretty much adventure, right? Like those are the three core things.
I'd agree with that,
But combat has never been taken seriously. Let's just be real. Combat has never been taken seriously in Zelda, and you always can shrug off every single boss fight. You could be like, hit the eye, it falls, hit the weak spot, we did it. Just rinse,
the classic.
repeat. So I think in general, like, I would never, like I said, that's why I said it was like a sour cherry on a beautiful Sunday. It doesn't matter.
It's a nice expression.
Right? Even if the final
is that a
boss
Lukism or is that like an actual
It's a Luke. No, it is.
Nice.
I made that up.
Cool.
So, if people use it, where it originated.
There you go. Yeah, royalties back to Luke. But sorry, look, go on. I cut you off again.
But yeah, so it's like I will never like take away points in that regard. But one thing, and overall, I think we both clearly have stated the game is really good, and there's a lot of good things going for it. One thing though I will take away from the game is, while again the game altogether seemed a bit condensed, like in the sense of like it kind of went by really fast. Again, you could beat it in like 3 days, but again, it's a good amount for the game. My only issue is how much they were trying to condense character arcs and progression in the small amount of gameplay that you were given.
This is where you want to talk about Daron, don't you? I can tell.
Yes.
Yeah,
exactly.
Go on, just get it out.
Specifically Daron, because I just feel like he was so forced of a character. Like his character arc was literally. So we meet him. His dad just died. He's following the 64? No, it's 60 something like that. Steps of Goron. You know,
I want to say 56. I don't know if I've just pulled
56
that out of nowhere.
Okay, I could see that. I think 50. No, that sounds more like it. Maybe I was thinking 6 because I was thinking of 6, but you might be right. Either way, him trying to overcome that, and like, let's be real, if you are doing it all back to back, it takes no more than 40 minutes to an hour to meet him and reach the temple. And yet the dude literally goes through an entire 180 character arc, from freaking resenting being, you know, the new chief, not knowing if he can take his dad's mantle, to, man, screw my dad's words, I'm good, I got this, I gotta do things my way. And I don't know, I just felt like it was super just it literally forced onto you. But then also, we just came off of Yunobo. Like, come on. Our Goron's always going to be portrayed. Yeah, like, our Goron's always going to be portrayed as the weaklings who need to overcome. Like, they're already, like, give us a cool Goron. Why is the freaking Zoras so badass and butting heads with each other? Why are the Gerudos super cool? Why is Conde such a bro?
That's the point. I was going to say, why, like, I didn't even think about Drad, the River Zora chief. Yeah, he's kind of a Goron stereotype, isn't he? He's, you know, big and brawny, but probably less intelligent than the Sea Zora, or at least less graceful. We'll go with that, than the Sea Zora.
His music is definitely less graceful.
And that's Goron music, right? Did that not remind you of like Tarry Town?
When I walked in, exactly. I literally said that, actually. I did,
Yeah. So yeah, I agree. But yeah, maybe they felt that the Goron archetype had already been filled elsewhere in the game, which, you know, Drad, the River Zora chief, he's okay. I don't really have a massive amount to say about him. He's pretty cool. I liked him. I thought the Zora quest was fine. Conde, now that's my boy. I love him.
Same.
I love him so much. And I will take another Yunobo. I'll take another weak Goron if it means we get Conde.
Yo, what about his brother, man? Are we gonna see Conde's brother?
Well,
Conde's brother.
I don't. At the end, during the credits, you see him waving to like a hot air balloon. Right? Is that coming towards him or going away? I assume coming towards. Right? That makes the most sense. If his brother does return at the end.
Bro, but imagine this was. What if this was the seed of the sequel? What if Nintendo, like, it all comes down to Conde's brother? Like,
yes,
there is
everyone's been saying we've had all these games. We've had all these games you play as Link. Now we've had one where you play as Zelda. Now we need one where you play as Conde. Then the Triforce is complete.
You know, he could fit the Triforce of Power, honestly. But no.
He actually could,
Imagine a Zelda game that just continues Echoes of Wisdom and goes beyond it. But I mean, again, Nintendo, here's the thing. With Zelda, at least they try to reinterpret all of their world building and give it a fresh start. And I think that's, again, why I don't want to pivot back, but like, Tears of the Kingdom was a letdown because it didn't give us that. So as much as I want a direct sequel, I feel like Nintendo probably won't give us that. And whatever it is, even if it's another Zelda game or Zelda game, if it's another game where you play as Zelda.
Caps Lock Zelda game.
Yeah, there we go. It will probably just be a new vision and a new thing that they're gonna kind of experiment with.
I agree. I don't think I'd want a direct sequel, you know, set in the same world again. I've had my fill of those sorts
Except
of sequels.
if Conde's brother was featured in it, and it was all about...
Well, for sure, then, I mean, you know, take my money. But,
give us the DLC.
Exactly, yeah, right? Conde DLC, that's it. Sorted. But I think he is an example of, like, because I love him, you love him. Most people I've spoke to love that character. And he's so simple, right? He is such a simple character.
That's how you do a non-forced sad story.
Exactly. I think he's the example of Echoes of Wisdom's style of storytelling done really well. It's very, very simple, but it still kind of hits you in the heart. You know, you feel for him. He's got, you know, the grave of his dad, and then his brothers left him, but he doesn't seem to have like the mental ability to kind of understand what's really going on. You know, you know what I mean? He seems quite simple, and he's such an endearing character.
Yep, and he didn't really solve anything. He literally thought his brother was upset. We told him the truth. We got to interact with him and tell him what happened. He wasn't just following us, being like, maybe I should do this. Maybe Zelda didn't even say a word to freaking Darstan. Not even a single word. Literally, Conde was upset until after the dungeon, and then tries like, your brother does care for you. He's still out there, and Conde's like, yeah, and like, but aren't you still sad? He's like, no, knowing my brother. It's like, bro, that hits. That was so. That was genuinely a heartwarming story.
Did you?
And you're in Hebra Mountain, and it was heartwarming. You know, okay, that was
true. Yeah. Did you get the? I don't know if I'm just completely wrong on this, but the what was it called? The boss, Scorchill. So was that an echo of his brother?
An echo, yes, easily. Yeah. 100%.
So that means his brother then must be in the rift, or at least have been in the rift at some point.
Once it closed. Yeah.
Yeah. Because then, I don't know, there's other dialogue where Tri says that it wasn't his brother, but obviously that could mean it wasn't his brother, it was an echo. Yep. Because then she says that wasn't what he looked like on the carvings, but then obviously the carvings look nothing like him, because it's like a 2D chalk carving on a wall.
True.
But, so I don't know, but yeah, I'm trying to kind of, I mean, we can segue into the story if you want. We're kind of skirted around it a little bit now.
Yep. Okay.
So I've been trying to kind of piece the story together properly. There's a lot of different bits to put together, because like I said at the start, I am genuinely very, very happy with this game's story overall. Like I said, we've got our qualms with maybe little bits of it feel a bit childish, but overall, it's really great. It's really great. It's a way better story than I thought it would have. I think it has exceeded my expectations in that regard. Not just because like I said, it does kind of repeat the same story structure around the map, where you have obviously there's these tiny little character conflicts, because like you said, you can complete these little bits in an hour, you know, or even less than that. And all the characters have these little tiny arcs that are kind of independent of one another, and they do often follow a similar formula. Some work better than others. Conde works amazing. Maybe the Gorons weren't as great. I like the Gerudo. Zora, Gerudo, they were good. I like the Gerudo when you're in the throne room, and Facet, Fawcett, whatever you want to say. She has a go. I can't remember what she says, but she you know, doesn't like Zelda, obviously, because she's evil. And then all the other Gerudo that you've just helped kind of come into the throne room and say, she's not alone, or something. That got me. I don't know. Simple things like that. It's just like a simple but well-executed story.
And it's actual conflicts that can probably be resolved in an hour. Like, it makes sense. Again, Darstan had a character arc that should have at least taken, I don't know, maybe like a couple weeks. It's not something you don't lose your dad and just immediately you take up the mantle. I'm good. And again, the fact that Zelda didn't interact, or he didn't learn from his lessons, he just kind of came together. But again, I'm done with that. We don't need to throw shade.
But yeah, I thought on the surface, the story, it was really great. And the lore. The lore is huge revelations from this game, which, speaking of, you know, expectations versus reality, I didn't even think it'd have as good a story as this, let alone like crazy lore revelations. Because it feels weird saying it out loud because of being careful of spoilers. But yeah, we're past the spoiler warning. Null, the main villain of this game. I think I had a feeling, I'm sure you did too, that Ganon wasn't going to be the final big bad, right? You knew kind of that there was something else going on.
There'd be something replacing him, or, you know, just like, I didn't think it would be a higher being than Ganon. I just thought maybe it wasn't Ganon's time to shine, and Ganon was just like a fake out, which it literally was.
But yeah, higher being is a great way to put it, because Null is crazy. He's kind of fundamental. He's been around before the Golden Goddesses created anything. It was just this nameless, chaotic void, and that's where Null lived. And he's just so fascinating to me, because it's an interesting type of villain where Ganon and Demise, you know, they're so cool. I'm never going to get bored of Ganon and that sort of villain. But there is an element of I'm evil, I hate everyone, you know, there's not that much more to it than that. Obviously, Ganon has a bit more depth, but Demise in particular is kind of avatar of destruction. He's just hatred manifest, which is cool. Great, you know, archetype or whatever, but Null isn't. Null's
There's a classy
else.
version. He wants nothing. Not even destruction.
Literally, he wants nothing. So can you even call him evil? Or is he a bit like Entropy, where he's just like a fact of the universe, that all things will decay and turn to nothing eventually? Is that evil, or is that just Null? I don't know. Because Null, in Japanese, he's called Mu, like M-U. I'm going to sound like a heathen if that's wrong, because the U has like an accent on it. Someone's going to correct me. It's not going to be as simple as Mu, like a cow. But MU, and it's kind of a Buddhist concept. Means nothing, as you can expect. Like Null means zero, Mu, nothingness, or like not, or without, or absent. But it's Null also interesting. Null and void, Null who lives in the void, It's also interesting because the idea of Mu is also the concept of like breaking out of the boundary of like binary good, evil, yes, no. I can't remember the I can't remember. There's a quote that sums up really well that I wish I could remember right now. But either way, it's kind of like if you get a yes or no question, Mu is the third option. It's not yes, it's not no, it's not good, it's not evil. It's something else, which Null is just the absence of things. And as we see the story progress, he does kind of get a little bit Ganon-y towards the end, where he gets the Triforce of power and he's saying, give me more, I want more and stuff. But the feeling that he wants power because he wants to overthrow what the goddesses did to his kind of perfection at the start. Everything was completely, null. There was nothing. And then the goddesses kind of intruded on that, imprisoned Null in this kind of lesser version of what he originally had, a smaller pocket void, it seems, whereas he had all of creation, or all of pre-creation at the start. And then I don't know, it's so interesting because he isn't evil, he's kind of amoral. He wants power like Ganon, but he wants it to just restore what he had before. And obviously we can see that as evil because it will mean the destruction of Zelda and Link and Hyrule, and all the people living there will die. But like, I don't know, was it the goddess's right to create creation on top of Null? I don't know. It's so fascinating. And like I said, I really didn't think we'd get kind of these, you know, cosmic events discussed in Echoes of Wisdom's story, but I'm so happy we have.
And I think if we were to get something to trump Ganon, it would have to be something like this, something otherworldly and that doesn't have human desire like Ganon. It needs to be like that kind of godly mentality of just like the dude doesn't have desires per se. He just wants things his way in the sense of like straight up nothing. So I do think as a concept it is really cool, but you know, I definitely there's too many unanswered questions I kind of do want to explore with you. Might as well. So one thing, why does he look like a Tri?
So that's really interesting. At least the current idea that I've got is, we know Null existed before the Tris, right? Because he was
the Tris
what was in the void before
the
Null exists. He either looks like a big kind of molecule, kind of like a virus, you know, like that kind of planetoid-sized Null in the stilled ancient temple at the end of the game. So he looks like that, but also we see kind of what I assume is like the heart of Null, or like the true essence of him, which is what we fight in the final battle. And that's like a weird,
giant,
disfigured Tri face. And all throughout Null's body, we get that repeated pattern of like, it's like 2 dots and a line or whatever. But if you look at that up close, it's little Tri faces. So Null has got Tri design all throughout him, but I think he predates the Tris. So he, you know, thrives in the void. Goddesses create the world on top of that, and then he kind of punches holes in creation. So they have to create essentially what are anti-Nulls to combat what Null's doing. So I think
small versions of him.
Exactly. So I don't think the question is why does Null look like Tris. I think it's why do the Tris look like Null.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think because they are the opposite of Null, and they were created as a response to him. That's why they look like him. I think anyway.
Okay. What
Go on,
about
hit me.
like?
These are great. Yeah, more questions.
Okay.
Any excuse to talk about Echoes of Wisdom lore, I'm there.
So, why do you think Ganon is absent? Do you think he was just currently sealed, or do you think it was like?
So, the only Ganons we see in the game, we see two Ganons
echoes, right?
and defeat both, and they're both echoes. Yeah, the first one, I'm pretty sure it must be explicitly said that he's an echo, but either way, he, dies in the same way. He kind of disappears into like purple fog, and he laughs before he vanishes as well. It's clearly a trap. He's not the real Ganon.
Yeah,
but
they should know Hyrule's afraid of him. Use him as the
but they don't even know his name, which is really cool. They just call him the Big Blue Guy or something like that.
Yeah, I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah, which I can imagine Ganon being so annoyed about that. He's such like a traditional villain. He likes being called Lord or King of Evil or whatever. If he's like, "Hey, Blue Guy, how you doing?" I don't think I'd like that. But yeah, the thing with all other echoes that we saw, the common link between all of them is that you have to have been in a rift for Null to echo you, which means if he's printing Ganon echoes, it means Ganon either is currently in or has been in a rift, which kind of means like Null's caught Ganon, right?
Yeah, but then also means we saved Ganon because we purified the rifts and mended.
That'd be there you go. No, I take it back. I do want an Echoes of Wisdom sequel. If it's just Ganon destroying Hyrule, it's all Zelda's fault. That'd be great. Yeah, give us that. And Conde has to save the day. Yeah, let's do that.
We team up with Conde's brother as well. Yo, okay, I mean, what if, like I said, maybe this whole time they're planning a sequel and we don't even think there's a sequel coming. That would be really cool, honestly.
That'd be huge. Yeah.
But that'd be like Nintendo's putting too much in one basket. I don't see Nintendo. I feel like this is already an experimental game. There's no way they're gonna. And if it does well or not, we're making a sequel. You know what I mean? So it's like we might just be putting our hopes up. But I would love to be wrong.
Same. Yeah, same.
Yep.
No, I definitely can't see an immediate sequel to this though. I think you're right. I think this is kind of a one and done, especially because it's technically the same as A Link to the Past world. It's obviously way bigger. We can't return there again. Like, although Echoes of Wisdom, genuinely, I didn't feel like I was playing Link to the Past the whole game.
Exactly. Yeah. It's proof that you can bring new life. But okay, back to, before I forget, there's at least one more I want to ask in terms of like lore we can kind of discuss.
Yeah, go for it.
So, okay, we know Null is before existence itself, but like when we like discover Skyward Sword's lore, we know the goddess was one entity, split her power into the Triforce, became mortal. So like, when did the Null stuff happen? Because Demise was the one who wounded her to where she had to become mortal. But we talk about the goddesses like they predecess even Hylia, but that's not the case, right?
Yeah. No, the goddesses. So I'm not sure if you're conflating Hylia and the Golden Goddesses. So the Golden Goddesses are like,
oh, okay, true.
They're the three. They're like primordial. They're like like a true god in like the truest of senses of that word. Like you can't really describe them. They're just kind of they just are, like they're just beings of creation. Of that's what they are. Like they're beyond kind of understanding. Hylia, she's not a demigod, but she's definitely kind of a rank below the Golden Goddesses, and her whole purpose was to guard the Triforce, which, the Triforce, there's kind of, you see different sides of it in different games, whether it's a manifestation of the goddess's power, or if it's bits of the goddess's life force made manifest, we don't really know. But either way, Hylia guarded the Triforce before Skyward Sword, and then obviously that's where you get Demise coveting the Triforce and stuff. So Null's story happens before Hylia existed and everything.
That's crazy to think
where
about.
Where it gets interesting with Skyward Sword is where did Demise come from originally, before he fought Hylia in the intro? Do you remember where it says he comes from?
Yeah.
Like a fissure in the ground. It doesn't say that.
Yeah, literally from a fissure. Though you would think it's. I see. You're right. It could. That would. I mean, obviously, that's not what they portrayed, but I see what you're saying. If you want to like,
it's a retroactive fit for sure. Yeah. Which I think kind of you have. I think another way you can retroactively fit. First, so Echoes of Wisdom. The timeline placement, still, you know, jury's out. At least for me, I think very late downfall timeline. Because, you know, it's so clearly, it's A Link to the Past and A Link Between Worlds inspired. Yep. It reuses their world. But we know it's after those games. Definitively, because we see things like the Eastern Palace. We
see Ganon as Ganon. He's completely
true.
Lost.
So it must be post Ocarina of Time, of course.
Yep.
But we see the Eastern Palace from A Link to the Past, and is it just called the Desert Palace in A Link to the Past? It's kind of like a weird stone head.
Yep.
Yeah. We see those in Echoes of Wisdom. The Desert Palace is ruined. The Eastern Palace has become an archaeological site. You know, you
True,
fight,
yeah, so it has to be after.
So it's got to be way after those.
But
so I think it's very late.
Link's OG house was destroyed, I guess.
Must have been destroyed, yeah.
Yeah, and then whatever the reincarnation of Link just happened to live in Southorn.
Happened to live in Southorn, yeah. But yeah, the fact that it's later on in the timeline, at least in my opinion, means that the concept of Null having existed since creation and also having created rifts since creation that have then been fixed by the tries, and, you know, children have gone missing in these rifts and whatever. That is a big retcon to like all of the Zelda games before, but I don't think it's like, I don't think it clashes. It's very easy to kind of, you know, believe.
I mean, that's Zelda in a nutshell.
And I think the only times that it's become difficult for me is times where, like, I'm gonna bring up Tears of the Kingdom again, I'm sorry, but Zelda travels back to the time of myth, which is where all the other Zelda games were kind of relegated to, and the time she travels back to, she ends up in a kind of repetition of the events of Ocarina of Time, and I don't want to get into it now, but there's so many elements that kind of place Raru's Hyrule as kind of another version of the Ocarina of Time Ganondorf story. And either then you have to believe in the refounding, which I think, I don't know, maybe that makes the most sense, or you kind of have to believe that the Tears of the Kingdom version is actually how Ocarina... It just gets messy when you kind of retcon established things that we saw happening in games, but the idea that Null existed below the world and rifts opened, sure, that can fit with any game before it. We just didn't see the rifts. Except, then you get the fun things where you can fit rifts into places where they do work. Like Demise came from a fissure in the earth. Maybe that was a rift. A big one for me that I think so cool is we know that Lorule in A Link Between Worlds fell into chaos because they destroyed their Triforce because of all the conflicts it caused. But then that world fell apart into bottomless chasms. Like, what if they're, assuming it's a mirror dimension, Lorule, they'd have had a mirror Null over there, like they have mirror everything else. What if they destroyed their Triforce and that somehow allowed Null to get the edge on that universe, and that's why Lorule started falling to pieces? I don't know. That's where I don't mind.
But wouldn't Null be a creation instead of... wouldn't he want to create?
Oh, true. Yeah, because I suppose...
He'd be
you'd have to flip his characteristics. He'd just be the golden goddesses, wouldn't it?
He would just be like a goddess.
Maybe that one needs a little bit more time in the oven. But the Demise one, I think, is pretty cooked. I think that works.
I do like that idea. Yeah, but it's just weird to think that there was so much more happening before even the Demise arc even started, and the goddesses were still intervening and everything, which is crazy. But I guess you're right. I mean, the goddesses have straight up created the land itself, so there's no way Hylia would have. But then it just makes you wonder, so then why do the goddesses now look after the parts of Zelda that, or rather Hylia, that split into 3, and why do they guard them? You know what I mean? Or like even bestow upon Zelda their sanctums that essentially represent the same power of the Triforce, or can give you access to that power. It just seems kind of jumbled in that sense. But I do like it. And I do like
that's because it is. That's because it is jumbled.
True.
But
I do
let's
like
try
the
and sift
theory
through
of
the mess. And
that Hylia is more of a demigod, or just like underneath the power of the true goddesses. And when you think of it that way, it just seems a lot more grand.
The golden goddesses are the ones, they created the Triforce. That's why the Triforce is this pure, even Null, who is, I don't know, like the golden goddesses, we don't know kind of what power level we're talking about with Null, but it's pretty high. The golden goddesses, they couldn't kill
Demise
him,
was
evidently.
Apparently,
right?
Yeah, right.
Right. But also, as a little aside, this is the only way I think they could have done a villain that predates and perhaps surpasses in terms of power Demise, because you couldn't do another, like an uber demise. Like, you know, this is the demise that came before demise, and he's called Mega Demise.
We're going into Dragon Ball Z territory, and I think
exactly.
this is
That's
dangerous.
why Null is great, because he doesn't do that. It's a left turn.
I
It's
guess.
like he's just nothing. It's
Yeah.
a completely different sort of villain.
But I
which
do
think
think it'd
really
be
good.
safer if they had it a bit more contained, in the sense of like they shouldn't have tried to retcon prior Zelda, and but I mean it's cool because it means this lore is like so important to Zelda, and I love the idea that we get to explore new lore. But I do think it kind of diminishes the idea of like what we already had before, and I just think you didn't need to give him that much power. You could have just had him be a corrupt, you know, he's a void that consumes like literally land and distorts them, right? That's essentially what we got. You literally freeze in time, and if you're stuck there for too long in the still world, you just vanish and no longer exist. And it's like, that alone didn't need super Saiyan God level strength. You know, you could have just stopped at like, you know, Cell.
I know.
And just
I
kept
do
it
get what you mean in that, like, it's a big power creep. You know, like this is a big jump. Like we've gone. Yeah, you're right.
Further past even Ganon. You know, Ganon was already like, what were you?
We've gone to kind of, you know, gods of creation level of strength. Yeah, this isn't even Beerus. This is like kind of Xenu level. Xenu?
Yeah,
no, that's
right.
Scientology.
Straight up.
What's it called? Xeno?
The two little gods. I know what you're talking about. I barely watch Super.
So that one. Yeah, we've gone up there now. Which I do kind of get that it's a pretty jarring jump. I just think personally for me it's new lore, but it doesn't, and it's new kind of massive series defining lore, but for me at least it doesn't devalue anything else.
It's not Tears of the Kingdom. Again,
it's not Tears of the Kingdom. If anything, I think it kind of enriches what we've had before. I do like the idea of the golden goddesses, because, you know, previously Zelda's all about balance. You know, it's good, evil, light, dark, and the golden goddesses, which are just pure creation, they kind of superseded everything before. You know, like Ganon, Demise, they're all small fries compared to the golden goddesses. But now we've got, you know, someone who competes with them. He's like the anti-golden goddesses, to the point where he's powerful enough that it's an easy detail to kind of brush over, but in Echoes of Wisdom we free the golden goddesses from, like, they're trapped. They exist in the story and they're trapped in the rifts. The golden goddesses are trapped. It's not like, oh, you know, Zelda's trapped again, she's like a mortal.
Right.
It's not even
She's
like
the weaker
Hylia's
version.
trapped. It's like these kind of forces of creation have been tethered by Null, which I don't know. I was just really, really happy overall with not just the low level story, but the kind of grander overarching lore.
And the Triforce being truly
and the Triforce just seeing it
pieces, back. Right? Like Zelda has always been about that. Oh, go ahead.
Did you guess going through the game that Prime Energy, Prime Energy, Prime Energy? Did you guess?
The second they said Prime Energy,
I feel stupid.
You can watch my blind LP. The second they said,
really?
Dude, the second he said, here's the thing. The second he said Prime Energy, I said Triforce. But then the second he said you need to visit Faron, what's it called, Eldin and Lanayru, I literally said, are we going to be visiting the 3 locations of the Triforce of the Sacred Realms? And then he said Lands of the Goddesses. I'm like, okay. Well, there you go. But it was so refreshing.
Man, I feel stupid now. I was like, oh, it's something new. It's the Prime Energy. And then I saw the Triforce.
Really?
And it just goes to, I don't know, it's just my Zelda brain. Because I could imagine someone else, if they were, you know, getting ready for some new reveal. What's the Prime Energy? And then they see the Triforce, they'd be like, oh. But for me, I was like, it's the Triforce. Like, yes, it's back. Like, I was so happy.
You were gaslit so many times that you just couldn't believe
I didn't
it.
notice.
That's what it is.
I didn't notice till the very end when, I mean, some part of my mind must have thought Triforce, but definitely it wasn't my main thought. I thought we were getting something new.
When I heard Prime Energy, I just knew it was a fancy word. I just knew it.
Oh, okay. Which, yeah, you were right. And then, but when you activate that stone pedestal in the I keep wanting to say Korok Forest, Eternal Forest, to access the Deku Tree.
The
Triforce symbol, and I was like, I know what time it is. I don't know, like it feels like so long since we've seen it. Like A Link Between Worlds?
Technically Link Between Worlds, but not even, because that wasn't really like overcoming the three, you know, and trying to like actually piece them together. I would say more so even, it really comes all the way back to, I want to say the Wind Waker, where we had a quest that even gave us any kind of, you know, semblance to that idea, because Link no longer would seek those or go, there was like, that wasn't really emphasized. I guess, no, Skyward Sword. What am I saying? Skyward Sword. There you go. My bad. I don't know why I don't consider Skyward Sword. Like, Skyward Sword is the origin of that. But then after Skyward Sword, yeah, it was truly neglected, where it's like, seek the three goddesses, seek their approval, seek something, go to those lands. There's significance behind them. And having that was so amazing. And like we said earlier, Lanayru Temple being the most difficult one was so smart, because it's like, this is Zelda's temple, this is the wisdom one, this is where things really need to get difficult. And like, I would say easily, like the lead up to each temple, everything about it was just so cool. And then when you finally do get the sanctum, I mean, I love that. It reminded me very much of like the Wind Waker, but like how you get it from the source, you know, instead in the Wind Waker.
Oh, they look like the goddess pearls as well,
right? They look shiny and edible. The graphics didn't help. Like I wanted to take a bite.
Like, delectable. But I mean, to be fair, is there anything else you wanted to touch on story? Because we could just segue into dungeons properly if you want.
I guess like I would have to say, like overall, I guess I'm with you in the sense of like, I love Null, I love the overall direction of the game. I would say I guess one last thing that kind of let me down, hate to be negative here, but
no,
we're gonna say it all.
Yeah,
positive and good. Yeah, exactly. I bring it down, you bring it up. There we go. That's the balance between us. No, I was gonna say in terms of just like what they did just at the end, it just seemed like, in my eyes, I wish there was just like a, how do I say it, like, I don't know, just something more to do with Link. But I guess I shouldn't say that, it's Zelda's game, so in reality I don't even want to have this statement, you know, like deep down I thought it would have been cool if, like, again, maybe I don't know, just kind of like, where's the Master Sword? What is this might crystals? Like, do we really just have to sit and accept the fact that it's like more Zonai like maybe, but that's what Zelda is, I guess. It's supposed to have unspoken lore. Like, I know you're all about deciphering it, but maybe just Nintendo's like, no, something.
I don't know. That's the thing. There is, Zelda lore does exist. There are, like, we know what the Sword of Might is. We know what it's made of and why it affects Null. And
but like, still, we don't know why there's no Master Sword. Why we don't even look for it. Why? Right? Why didn't Link even seek it out? I mean, is it just because Ganon's time hasn't started? Go ahead.
I assume the Master Sword has one purpose, right? Which is repel evil. That's like what it does. Ganon, sure. Ganon is embodiment of evil. That's what it's designed for. Null, I don't know.
Did it trigger the Link needing it, I guess, or Link awakening?
Is Null evil enough? I don't know. Because the Sword of Might is formed from might crystals, which Lubery, the Sheikah scientist, was researching, collected them from like sites where rifts had been closed by tries. So it's made out of Null's own, not being, but his own energy, like his own power, kind of forged into weapons that, you know, can be used to defeat him. Which, I don't know, it makes sense to me, but I'd have liked to see the Master Sword in this game. Which
the absence. That's it.
Because
a
big reason. Like, I mean, I love this game for a lot of reasons. But one big reason is it's very shallow, but because it just threw a lot of familiar Zelda things at me. You know, we saw Jabu Jabu, we saw the Deku Tree, Volvagia, the Triforce. You know, everything like that. It was great. Throw the Master Sword in as well for good measure. Why not?
Right?
I don't know. Yeah, I agree with you. I think lore-wise, I agree why it's not there. But fan service, come on. Like, you can't beat. Imagine that if you could unlock it as your sword fighter weapon or something. It'd be amazing.
But speaking of which, then let's get into gameplay. Yeah, it is a shame that you couldn't unlock like some kind of superpower mode after beating the game. Whether it is a Link Echo, whether it is, I mean, again, I guess that if you do 100% the game, you can. It's still not good enough. I feel like they should have just given you some super OP thing. When you beat the game, like, why can't you just be ultra OP? Like, why not? You beat the game, right? There's nothing else to do. I guess the side quests, but it's like, wouldn't it be fun to revisit those side quests or to do them with some kind of thing? So I was a bit upset in that regard.
I mean,
that there is no real
I do agree,
bonus.
But also I felt the same with, you know, Zelda in general. Post games just aren't really a big thing.
Except Majora's
you know, like,
Mask.
Yeah, true. Yeah, but you know, it's easiest to
Usually,
compare
yeah.
Echoes of Wisdom to Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom. They
Not
have
really,
zero
because again, that
games.
game you can beat in 100% within the span of a week. Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, the game designer straight up tell you, don't 100% it.
True.
Find what you
If you
find
100% it,
and
I'll
beat
give you a piece of poo as a reward.
Yeah, you will
That's how
punish
much we
you.
don't want you to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but this game, it's like, it's contained enough. If anything, literally the second you beat the game's Deku Tree, it's like, here's all the echoes in these locations. The map is like, yo, press Y, look at all the, everything you got, what you're missing. So the game genuinely wants you to go out of your way to complete things. So I don't know, it would have been cool. But again, I'm nitpicking. I think overall the gameplay was really good. Like, in terms of echoes, I mean, that being the main way, I would love to see that explored again, but again, with some more balance. I feel like a multiplayer version of the game. Imagine where you can have Link play and you can have Zelda. I mean, I know that's asking too much, but how
the
cool
final
would that
battle
been?
would be nuts,
Right?
if you could have
Yeah.
one player as Link, one player as Zelda. That'd be
Yup.
amazing. Yeah, you're right.
Yup.
But I mean,
And like Zelda could
speaking
heal
of
you or
echoes, right.
something.
give me your top 5 echoes. Just
All right.
any use, so they can be for traversal, for combat, a mix, whatever. Just give me top 5 echoes. Like
Okay,
if you pulled up your
easily-
tab, what would be your most used?
Yep. Okay. Easily number 1 for me. My go-to, my buddy, is the Sword Bokoblin. I don't care what you say.
Just because he tanks the hit with the shield, hits back.
Yeah, he's very
Eats
much
through
a
so
fat
much.
Link.
Yeah.
He's just fat
Yeah.
Link, right? Like, I mean, I respect it. So for me, it's always super
Okay.
efficient just to kind of
Sword Moblin, is that number 1?
That's number 1. That's literally my favorite. Is Dompe's version, the automaton version of it.
Oh, he's crazy with
the
the
samurai.
giant blade swing.
Yeah, swipe. Yep. But I would say then immediately after that, when we say echoes, we're talking about even physical like objects, right?
Anything. Yeah, anything.
Okay. Crawltula, water block.
Yes.
Because those are 2 are must. Freaking carrot, I guess, for your horse,
Yeah. I mean, sure. Yeah.
if that counts. And then I guess okay, that's 4, right? So 1 more.
Yeah, I've lost count. Sure. Well, give us another.
I'm trying to think, like, what's one that I absolutely love. Oh, I guess the Gwei. I genuinely do think they're really nice for like attacking enemies in the sky far up. And again, you can glide. They're their version of paraglider. Okay, what about you? Now you have to go.
So I think there'd be a little bit of overlap on some.
Okay.
I think 2 big ones that I would include, both found in Gerudo, and they just break exploration and traversal. They're so
Tornado,
powerful. So one is Flying Tile, obviously.
Oh,
That's
true. See, I haven't
crazy.
abused that. I need to check that out.
Oh,
All right.
it's insane. Any like cave that you need to get to the other side, just hop on the Flying Tile, fly over. What's the problem?
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the other one is kind of the same thing, but for vertical rather than horizontal, which is it's something boom. I think it's kind of a thwomp, like a yellow.
Oh,
thwomp.
the thing that I never. Okay,
Plat
you literally,
boom.
I
It
never
might
did
be
that in my
plat boom.
LP. Yeah. Okay, you have to kill that. You never think you could get an echo from that. You know, like
Right.
until you realize you can.
My
damage
first
it.
run through, I didn't use it. I didn't know you
Same.
could kill it. Same with the little kind of wind orb thing. It's in some I don't know. It's like fires wind out in all sides. I didn't know you could kill that either, but you can get that as an echo as well.
Yeah, the trap.
But
thing.
yeah, Plat Boom is crazy for vertical exploration because you can use it not only for like climbing a little wall, but especially
Climbing a
later
cliff, right?
when you can spawn 2 at once. But even earlier,
Ooh.
you use 1 to climb, then you spawn another. Even if it despawns the one you're on, you can kind of fall alongside it to make sure you land back on top of the newly spawned one.
Yep.
And then it will go up higher. It seems whatever
Yep.
height you spawn them at, they will then gain a bit of
Give you that
vertical height
fixed
from
amount.
that. So you can ladder forever with them. Like, they're crazy. The
So
cloud,
screw
obviously.
Nah, I feel like an idiot mentioned Crawltula.
I mean, Crawltula is busted. I think that's still, if you want to climb the whole
Early
of Mount
game.
Lanayru, you
Yeah.
could do like a whole ladder of plat booms, or just
Right.
use the spider. Like,
Exactly.
I think that's just gold. I think Crawltula's a safe bet. I think that'd be in my 5. So what have I got? I've got Flying Tile, Plat Boom. I'll go for Crawltula as well. I'll steal that. I'm going to be really basic and throw in Lionel as well. Just
Okay, I didn't want to say Lionel just because everyone's gonna pick it, but fair enough. You
I,
had to say it.
I can't not. I don't know, and I don't
Yep.
really need to explain it either. It's
Yep.
a Lionel, so there
Yep.
you go. One more. Okay, I'll be boring. I'll go with P-Hat. I started the game with it.
Ooh,
I found myself
okay.
using it all the way through. You can glide with it. It deals insane damage. It destroys the Echo Link mini-boss in the first dungeon. By the end of the game, you can have 3 P-Hats spawned, which is crazy. I don't know, I'll go with that. But I think, it's Echoes of Wisdom. You can do things in whatever way you want.
It's really cool how different and it's really cool how different ours. You're all about damage and destruction. I was picking more like stuff that can kind of just be efficient and not really do much. But so it really just shows that your play style your experience will be so much different than every player that alone just makes it worth picking up, because it's like you really do want to play it. You don't want to watch. I mean, if you want to watch someone play it, you want to watch them play it their way, not your way.
Exactly. And I think one thing that's kind of, I wouldn't say it's underrated, but I think we haven't talked about it. There you go. I'll say that. That makes the Echo system work so well is the Echoes are the new items, right? Instead of like an old Zelda game, you'd go into a dungeon, you'd come out with the boomerang. I don't know. Now you'd be able to solve boomerang puzzles.
Here's a good example. Hook shot. Instead, you get a whatever the Skulltula with the web.
Yeah, sure. Okay, right. So then you get that instead. Like, Echoes fulfill the roles that items would have normally. So like, you find a new Echo, it allows you to do something that you couldn't normally do. But that's so great in so many ways that, again, I'm gonna have to bring up the 3D Switch games, because it's a similar design philosophy for them. They kind of preload you, like Tears of the Kingdom especially. You get all your abilities on the Great Sky Island. By the time you've left the Great Sky Island, you've seen almost all of the Zonai building blocks that there are. There's a few others that you'll find around, but again, you see them all pretty much at the start of the game. Echoes of Wisdom kind of drip feeds you different echoes throughout the game. Obviously, it's open, so if I open the game now, knowing everything I know about the game, I'd be able to go and find, the flying tiles straight away and whatever. But if you play the game blind, as, your first time playing through the game, you unlock echoes kind of naturally as you go through the game, which kind of makes it so you're not uber powerful at the start, and you get a proper sense of progression, of feeling more capable and powerful as the game progresses, which is how it should be. And also, it makes exploration so much more rewarding, whereas Tears of the Kingdom, again, you get all your abilities at the start, and then it's a fantastic game world to explore. I love the caves and whatever, but you'd go into a cave and you'd know really what you'd get. You might find a shrine in there. You might get a spirit, what are they called? Not spirit orbs. Light of Blessing.
Or a bubble frog or whatever.
Or always a bubble frog, yeah. And you might, defeat some monsters, get a chest that's, I don't know, got some monster extract in it, or something like that. I don't know. Echoes of Wisdom, you see a cave. It might have a new Echo enemy that you've never seen before that will completely change the way you play the rest of the game. It might be the Platboom cave that I found that changed vertical exploration for the rest of the game. And I think the way that Echoes are the new items, but there are so many of them, they're so varied, and they're sprinkled all across the world, is just genius. It's just it's the right way to do it if they're going to do this open-ended item design.
I think this literally comes full circle. It literally goes back to how this game is the perfect blend of, again, both new and old Zelda, but also does Tears of the Kingdom right. Pretty much everything you described essentially yells that, right? Like, it's because you have being able to do things your way, multitude of ways, but it's not given to you at the very beginning. It's a good blend of the two. It has the classic Zelda progression, but it also has the freedom of new Zelda. And then actually kind of forcing you to kind of do it in that way. It's very much like what Tears of the Kingdom should have been, or what most Zelda fans wanted. Because I do think, and maybe Nintendo is learning, maybe now the next 3D Zelda game, they'll very much do this. They'll realize that let's restrict a player very little bit and make them kind of have to go through certain things, solve things this way. Again, in a multitude of ways, but then kind of have the game open up truly as you reach the end. And also, it's very much like the whole bind thing. Like, when you're not familiar with the game's mechanics, there's a lot of things that you could solve that are a lot easier, that when you come for that second playthrough, you're just like, oh, this is so easy. How the hell did this stump me before? So it very much has that kind of sense. But again, perfect blend. That's what makes it so
Yep.
good.
I completely agree, and I think you can boil it down to as simply as it's the idea, the concept of freedom of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. They've taken that, but then they've wedged it into a classic Zelda game, like the classic Zelda progression structure, everything like that. Which the 3D Switch games, Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, Breath of the Kingdom, I don't know, I'll call them that. They lacked that. They lacked the structure that really would have kind of elevated them. And Echoes of Wisdom has that, and I cannot wait to see where the series goes. If they keep this in mind, I think this kind of structure in the next 3D game, I don't even have words. Like, is perfection, right?
Yeah, 100%. This is truly what Zelda needs to keep following. And I mean, maybe not make it as restricting, but just like no, it's not gonna hold the game back. Like, if anything, I gotta give props to Nintendo for literally, as someone who, all I did, if you watch my blind LP, I'm like, when am I gonna get an outfit? When am I gonna get an outfit? But they stuck to their guns. They're like, Zelda is in disguise. This is a story. Yeah. The story is still a part of the game. You cannot switch your outfit. You can, no matter what you want to do, you're not getting any outfits. We're denying you outfits until you reach a point where she no longer has to hide. That's so respectable. Do more of that. Force the player. We want your story at the end of the day. We don't want, not every game needs to be Minecraft. Like, let us follow something. Yeah,
I completely agree, and I should have mentioned it back when we were in full story discussion mode, but one thing that I appreciate the hell out of in Echoes of Wisdom is that it kind of did Tears of the Kingdom's regional phenomena thing, but it did it in a much more structured way, because you start the game, you complete the beginner dungeon, and Jabul Waters and Gerudo both have rifts, and they're your first two dungeons to go and solve. But there's nothing stopping you going to Eldin or going to Faron and seeing the Deku, and there's no rifts there. Like, you see them before the chaos happened, and then it feels much more like the classic story progression where you have the whole world, do a little bit of story, things happen, and the world changes. Whereas I felt with Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, the worlds are very static. Like, they're in this situation at the start of the game, and they kind of remain largely in that situation until the very end of the game. Obviously, Link goes around and he helps the racers with whatever they're dealing with, but there's no big twist, there's no big change halfway through the game. I don't know, it wasn't like halfway through Tears of the Kingdom, I don't know, I can't, I'm not a game designer, I just criticize, I can't come up with ideas. But I don't know, nothing big happened, no big twist or change or whatever, which Echoes of Wisdom did, and I'm so happy to see that back, because the mid-game twist, that's a Zelda staple, right? That always, the good Zelda games, you get halfway through, Ganondorf's done something, he's changed, he's turned the game on its head, and Null does it this time around. It's so cool, yeah. But I mean, we kind of skimmed on dungeons. We talked a little bit about Lanayru, but I think we should probably talk a little bit more about dungeons, because yet again, sorry to keep bringing it up, Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, dungeons are a big kind of miss for me on those.
Same.
These are much more closer to what I like.
Yeah, and they're definitely, let's just say this, they take the idea of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, but again, they just blend it well with old school. It's very much like a kind of mix of the two. But that's so much better than just it being new school, because sadly that is the biggest problem with the Breath of the Kingdom games, as literally their dungeons were so simplified that it could literally take you 25 minutes tops. That's pushing it. So I don't think a single Tears of the Kingdom dungeon, I guess the Spirit Temple,
probably,
other than that,
one.
just because that one takes quite a bit.
That's the most Zelda dungeon out of all of them.
Yep. But all the other ones, literally complete misses. They were so beautiful. They were amazing little thrill rides, but that's it. This really makes you sit and kind of ponder. Not really. I mean, I'll be honest. Like we said, the game is overall easy, but it's like, it feels like you're in here for 30 minutes. You're really in here for like 30 minutes to an hour. You're not leaving. You're dedicated. You're separated from the main world. There is no distraction. Because of that, they really do feel like classic dungeons. And I mean, come on, force in the boss key, force in simple stuff like that. Like, let us really have things to collect. Yeah, there are no items, but like no matter what, every single dungeon you went into, like you said, there was some kind of key enemy you want to find that would help you kind of change up the dungeon. Unless you got a crawl to and you just skip the water temple or something like that. But having that option is still really cool.
That you can do that. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But it's really cool that there is that kind of freedom. And that's very much, that temple was that reminded me the most of Tears of the Kingdom. I'm like, oh, turning
it
on
even had the
terminals.
things.
Yeah, right?
Yep.
But luckily, no, it didn't feel like one. I felt like I was in, and if anything, I feel like in the last podcast, Austin made a really good example. Speaking of which, we're literally rocking his shirt. Shout out to Austin John.
The same shirt as well with, I don't know, a couple of echoes.
Exactly. It's fitting. We're talking about Echoes of Wisdom.
Exactly.
But like, what the game did and what it needed to do is it had contained puzzles in rooms. And that is something that like Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild was lacking. And I think that alone is all Zelda needs. It needs like 10 rooms in the dungeon that really force you to solve puzzles in a linear fashion and you can't advance forward. And it's like, so it's when you really think about it, dungeons don't need to be that complex. They just need to really force you to feel like you're taking on a full-on dungeon. And because of that, yeah, so much better. But okay, what was your favorite dungeon? Mine was Lanayru. Since I mentioned it first.
Boring answer, yeah. Mine was Lanayru. Loved it. Oh, it was really, really great.
Music, atmosphere. I hate ice mechanics, but like the way you solve them, super cool, right?
Did you get the ice shoes?
No, I didn't even consider using that.
Like the quicksand shoes. There's like
I used the quicksand
shoes.
I had that one for the sand temple. Surprisingly,
It was in some cave in Lanayru. It's quite well hidden. I didn't have it the first time I did the dungeon either.
Yep, didn't need it though. Luckily.
No, I thought Lanayru was really good. I think overall the dungeons, I was really happy just to see classic Zelda dungeons back at all. I think if I had to rank these among other top-down dungeons, I think they would be probably on the weaker side. I think they are still a little bit too short, a little bit too easy. And although Lanayru was my favorite, because I found that one the most challenging, the puzzles, they did make me stop and think for a while, which was great. And just
you generally spent 45 minutes to an hour, not like upwards of half an hour.
Which I really liked. I don't know, but I did find myself missing, and again, this comes back to the difficulty of the game. I found myself missing, like an Eagle's Tower or a Turtle Rock or something like that, just like a proper like bastard of a dungeon to like make me sweat, But I think for a return to form, as in we've had a couple of games where dungeons haven't been what proper, fans of Zelda dungeons wanted them to be. This is just so many steps in the right direction that I'm willing to forgive them being, slightly shorter and easier than I would personally like for top-down dungeons to be.
Same.
Again, it comes back to it could be, hopefully is, the beginning of a new direction for Zelda. And if they keep going in this direction, it's the right direction for my money. I think I loved just the idea of being in a Zelda dungeon again. Like you said, like you're in here now. The overworld's out there, forget about it. You're locked in, solve this dungeon, which is great. But yeah, Lanayru's my favorite because it reminded me the most of a conventional dungeon. It was kind of difficult, slightly. I don't know if it's non-linear, but it felt more branching than other ones because I didn't really. But
it was pretty linear. No, you had to go room. You'd have like 3
they were
rooms,
all
but you solve them, move to the other section. Yeah, they all. I think that's good. We want linear in dungeons. What is a dungeon, man? Get us through from one end to the other. Like I don't.
True, but I think you can go too linear. I think Eldin for me was too linear. That was a straight line.
True.
Whereas Faron, I thought was kind of cool because that was
really cool.
Open.
The dark rooms and the dark rooms.
And it had like 4 entrances and I thought that was really cool.
I entered from the 2D section and I thought it was super weird to see the text and try react to it. Yeah, because I came in from like a back entrance. You're right. I do like that.
Yeah.
That dungeon overall was really well structured. That's what I'm saying. They were really well structured. This is what dungeons need to be. They need to be full-on experiences with actual, like, again, puzzles that literally lock you from progressing. But again, with how Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild want to do is like you could solve any puzzle in any order, and there are 100 ways to solve them, and there's no room locked. It's just go to boss room once you're done.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
and I think
it's not really saying much. I was gonna say it's not saying much. Them going back to any old school roots is gonna be a huge improvement. Is my point. You know, like
yeah, for sure. Yeah. And you know, it played around with some pretty cool mechanics. I loved, again, Lanayru. I loved the heating, cooling mechanism puzzles. They were really cool. That stumped me for a little while. Where I can't remember which room specifically, but I melted the ice, I think. And I was like, cool, there you go. I've done with that bit. But then you have to go back and refreeze the same room, which, you know, sounds simple when you say it out loud, but I don't know, in the moment, it's a cool little twist on a puzzle, which I loved. I loved the Gerudo Temple as well. I think that was a bit of a standout for me. At least in the first half of the game, that was amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Hyrule Castle, atmosphere-wise, is nuts. Loved it. Dungeon-wise,
it's a rehash.
It was very short and very
room.
easy.
Yeah. They rehashed the escape route. Yeah.
But it was very cool. Exactly what you said. It's very cool that you then retread your stealth route. But like, there's like dark rift versions of the guards who still put you in like a rift jail if they catch you, which is just, it was so cool. I don't know. I loved it.
I speaking of jail, the Clink, man, that was absolutely hilarious. That whole bit. I'm glad we had a bit like that where we got to like do a little stealth. And I think every game needs to strip you from your arsenal when you're like halfway into the game, just to remind you where you started. I think, to me, I love that. I love that in video games. So I thought it was super cool. Very much like even though we've been hating on Tears of the Kingdom so much, some of the best things that came out of Tears of the Kingdom would be the trial shrines that forced you to
proving grounds. They kind of even-tided you, stole all your stuff. Yeah.
There you go. Zelda reference with another Zelda reference.
Which I don't know, it shows that restriction is kind of important. I don't know,
it's necessary. In a gaming world where they want to give it all to you, sometimes you just gotta go back to the roots. But what were you gonna say?
Exactly. I was gonna say, what did you think about the number of dungeons? Happy, more or less?
I deep down thought 100%. I deep down thought we were gonna get at least 2 more. Like, I didn't think it would. Like, I generally, at least I know we both thought we would have an actual final dungeon. It's a shame we didn't get an actual one. I thought Null's body would have been it at least, but I don't consider that a dungeon. So I would say overall,
it was cool, but not long enough to be a dungeon.
I'm not disappointed, but I would have wanted more, just because I do feel like the first dungeon and the middle dungeon, which is Hyrule Castle, wasn't really a dungeon. So it's just like, it would have been nice, but like I understand why, because maybe we needed more environments to experiment in. But I feel like even, I don't know, it would have just been cool to, I don't know, I felt a little bit let down in terms of, we say Lanayru Temple is the best temple for both of us, but like I was a bit let down that Hebra just kind of, you went into Hebra's stilled Hebra Mountains, and all of a sudden you were in stilled Lanayru, and there was no actual, you can't even see Lanayru in the game.
Lanayru Mountain doesn't exist. I know.
Yeah,
I went back specifically to try and see it.
Right? It's just an idea or something.
Yeah.
So,
well, apparently you have to get there on the clouds or something, which is kind of cool. Little feels quite Minish Cappy, which I'm always there for.
I wish it was foreshadowing to something we'd be able to actually experience, but overall, I feel like it could have used more. What about you? Like, you would probably hoping at least for one final.
Easy answer. Yeah, a few more would have been nice. Bring it in line with, A Link to the Past, A Link Between Worlds, sort of.
The 8.
A couple of more wouldn't have
8.
hurt. Yeah.
What was it? 7? If we were counting Hyrule Castle.
I want to say 8. Oh, yeah. If you're counting Hyrule Castle, I want to say 8 in those.
Oh, it's still 8. Okay, I guess.
Link's Awakening's 8 as well.
Yeah, Link's Awakening is 8.
I could probably list
the 8 instruments of sirens or whatever.
I get confused. I don't know. Do you think? Could you list the Link's Awakening dungeons? I've had Link's Awakening on the mind. I don't know.
Okay.
Like, off the top of your head. Okay.
Yeah.
Little impromptu quiz here. Sorry.
I don't know if I can give you the names. Tail Cave, I think, is the first one. The second one is Angler. No, is it Angler? Yeah, Angler's Tunnel. No,
I think that's
whatever the bottle one. Bottle Grotto. There we go.
There, you got
that's
it.
The
Yeah,
one.
okay.
Do you know them by heart? Are you just quizzing
think
me?
so. Then I want to go.
And the
Key Cavern, I know it's there.
Oh no, Key Cavern, and then
Catfish's
Angler's.
Yeah, no, then Angler's Tunnel, then
Catfish's Maw. Then the tower, Telltale,
Face Shrine.
and what's it called? Oh, Face True, and then Eagle's Tower, then Turtle Rock. Thanks for counting with us. One take.
Yeah. Back to the podcast. There you go. That's an 8 would have been the right amount, I think, for me. This, I don't know. You kind of want to be left wanting more when you finish a game, but also I did want a bit more. You know, I wanted a couple more, but I don't know. It feels bad to be complaining about Zelda dungeons in 2024, which you know, part of me thought had gone, and I'm so happy that and it does seem that the general reception is not just you and me, but the kind of vibe I've got online is that people are happy that there are dungeons again, and you know Nintendo's got their ear to that. You know they're going to have seen the positive reception of people like proper dungeons in Zelda games, and you know, hopefully they take that into account, because I know I've said this, I've done, you know, beaten this horse to death now, but Tears of the Kingdom with classic structure and dungeons and item progression is just the perfect game, right? I hope that Echoes of Wisdom becomes a template going forward. And I think that's kind of a good way to sum up my general thoughts about the game, is that I love it. It's flawed in some ways. There's definitely things I'd change about it. But I think that this is the model that they should be looking at going forward, rather than Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom. I think obviously they should take things from those games, but I think looking at a general blueprint, I think Echoes of Wisdom is the one. I don't know if you assume you feel pretty similar on that?
100% agree. It's like I said, it's the perfect blend of the two. So if Nintendo wants to give us this new kind of innovation of solve puzzles 10 different ways, you still got to give us some structure. So this really is the blueprint they need to follow moving forward. Give us a 3D Zelda game like this. It will be the best thing ever if we got a 3D Zelda game like this. Like, I definitely want to see that. But speaking of which, I guess, and kind of to wrap things up, what do you want to see next from Zelda then? Are you after getting this game, are you just desperate for the Oracle remakes? Do you want to see the next adventure in 3D?
I would love the Oracle remakes. I feel that those games perhaps more than any other suffer from, you know, where they are at the moment, because I love the Oracle, especially Ages, Seasons that I like. Ages I do really like. They're trapped on the Game Boy, you know what I mean? Like Link's Awakening was, where they're still great and you can still appreciate them, especially thinking this is a Game Boy Color game, this is nuts. But there's just so many, I don't know, infuriating little moments because it's on the Game Boy, like opening the menu every couple of seconds.
But see, they remedied that in the remake of Link's Awakening is a good example, because I replayed the original Link's Awakening.
Exactly. So I'd love that. That's why I think they're so good. But I think they're so restricted by being on the Game Boy that a Switch remake would be amazing. I think selling those as a double pack with, you know, good graphics and quality of life changes, that's a deal. Like, even if they sold that at full price for a remake, I think that's 2 solid long Zelda games, long-ish Zelda games. I think I'd love to see that.
With incredible stories.
I assume you don't disagree.
No, 100%. If anything, it completely flew past my head, as well as it did with you, that the storm cloud in Echoes of Wisdom is a enemy from the Oracle games, which I didn't even
Smog. Yeah. I didn't pick that up either until I saw it pointed out on the internet, went back. It's the same fight. Yeah, it's in Ages, and he does the whole let's play a game thing. So I don't know how I forgot about that, but it has been, I don't know,
but that's
7 years, 8 years since I played the Oracles. It's been
and
a
let's
long
be
time.
real, like you said, because they're restricted to Game Boy, you never really seen them on the big screen. You never it's more of a fleeting memory when you can't re-experience. That's why these games need a second life. Some of these games, but I mean, granted, with Nintendo Switch Online is the way to experience them. But my point is, clearly Nintendo is they were, like you said, I feel like you said this before, it probably was conceived as an Oracle's remake, and then they pivoted.
I still
and
get
made
that
their own
vibe.
game,
Yeah.
right. But then if that's the case, go back, please. Just go back, finish that. Finish that idea. Okay, you finished this new project. Yeah, now give us that one. And I wouldn't want a world without Echoes of Wisdom, but I still want the remakes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like we've both said before that like remakes are great, but we'll always take something new over a remake.
Yeah.
But yeah, Oracle's remake would be great. I think it's too early still to even start talking about the next 3D thing. I think hopefully we can, with Echoes of Wisdom, get a kind of idea of where the Zelda developer headspace is around certain design philosophies, which, like I've said, great. I'm happy with where they seem to be at the moment. Develop that. We'll talk about that later, because I think right now we don't. It'd just be completely wild speculation.
Which is exciting,
as will
though,
this.
What
but
if
like, what else would you want to see in between now and then? Because assuming we've got
more of this, just straight up more,
another fresh top-down game, or
like, yeah, I guess the way we differentiate the 3D and 2D, it's not even just the camera angle, it's the budget, right? Like, come on, like we know the budget in Echoes of Wisdom isn't even probably 1/10 of a Tears of the Kingdom. And like that alone is like, well, you can make good things with the lower budget. Yeah, you're not going to get the same sales. It won't be a 20 million, level of projection within a year, but
like that, yeah, it's crazy.
Right? But it's a good gap in between. I desperately want this. I get so envious of like Pokemon, even though they're releasing crappy remakes. I'm like, you still got something to do this year. You still got a new game. Like, give us something. I don't want Nintendo to become that shallow, but it's like, and I'm sure they won't. Like, Nintendo, I mean, we say Nintendo and Pokemon is a part of Nintendo, so I mean, maybe I
don't think they will. Zelda's still like their
still sacred. It's their
what's the word?
You used it as a great example. Yeah, and another one you said, it's like not their tech demo, but their example of what they can push hardware to. Zelda is their flex game, like this is what
what's
we
the
can,
word?
This is our,
there is a word.
There was a word. I know you. That's what I'm saying. I know you said
not flagship.
Really
there's a word. It's whatever that word is. It's their premiere title, premiere series. Something like that. Like
pretty much.
You're right. It's where they flex. It's like we're Nintendo. These are the games we make. Obviously, the 3D Marios are also that, but as a whole series, Zelda is consistently extremely high quality.
Zelda I think has,
and I can't see them Pokemoning
level of respect. Yeah, exactly.
Like they'd never release. We haven't even discussed it in this podcast, but how much did Echoes of Wisdom's frame rate bother you?
Not even slightly. I don't care. I just don't actually care. I'm not that person. What about? Wait, don't tell me it bothered you.
I didn't bother me. It didn't negatively affect my experience of the game. I'm looking forward to playing the game on a Switch 2. I'll say that.
Same.
There's moments in the Overworld where it stutters a bit, and it's like, I wish it didn't. But that's kind of like an example of Zelda games running at their worst. And then you compare that to like, what Pokemon gets with Scarlet and Violet,
yeah, right? It looks
the jokes
abysmal
write themselves,
to begin
don't
with.
they? Like,
right? There's no shadows. There's no any. Like, Scarlet and Violet. No, not even Scarlet and Violet. What was after Scarlet and Violet? No, you're right. No, I was thinking of Sword and Shield. You're right.
Scarlet and Violet were worse. Yeah.
Scarlet and Violet. I played it. I beat the game. Holy crap! Is it hideous in the sense? I still love. That's the thing. I come from a place of like, I play most Pokemon games. I love them. It's just the standards are really low compared to Zelda, and it's funny. Like, I'm someone who grew up where maybe there's another timeline where I'm a bigger like Sonic fan than Zelda, but it's like I don't see that happening if these are the games. Like in every timeline, I become a Zelda fan first because Nintendo never missed with that series. All these other franchises eventually diminish. No franchise has the same level of like there's no game that like let's say like Ocarina of Time. No one really thought we were gonna get another Ocarina of Time. We got that with Breath of the Wild.
I know.
So it's like
it's crazy to think about, and like the game that we incessantly complain about and rag on is Tears of the Kingdom, which is like
the most ambitious game of all time.
Exactly. This extreme, like you can't even put into words like how massive this game is, and like the technical marvel that is the fact that it runs on the Switch, and like that's at least according to me, that's like a Zelda. It's not Zelda at its worst by any means, but it's it's the Zelda I complain about most frequently. I'll go with that.
Right.
And it's better than almost any other game in existence.
AAA single player game that ever existed that came out. Well, some could argue that, but you get what I'm saying. It is what like Skyrim did to gaming, in the sense of like, if Breath of the Wild didn't exist, it has that level of potential of like surreal level of non-restrictiveness, and that is what makes these games truly feel magical.
It's next level. It is next level, and for all I rag on it, I love Tears of the Kingdom as a game. It is extremely good. It's it's a lot of my own expectations of what I wanted, and also there's things like the story and the dungeons and things that I wish were improved. But
it's tough love. Like, we love the game so much. We just expect more out of it.
There are plenty of terrible games that I play an hour of and never touch again. Whereas Tears of the Kingdom, hundreds of hours. Hundreds. Yeah.
Probably 1,000.
So I haven't ticked over 1,000. I haven't ticked over 1,000 on Tears yet. I don't know what you're at.
Breath of the Wild, at least.
Breath of the Wild, I'm on like 1,700 in Breath of the Wild or something.
Right? I'm for probably 3,000 collectively on Breath of the Wild. Tears of the Kingdom probably 700, maybe close to 1,000. But I definitely put like 300 hours in a playthrough, and then I did like I did like several playthroughs. But like my main playthrough was probably 300 plus hours, which I'm assuming yours is around that.
I think main's 250 or something on the Switch. Something like that. But yeah, we've done our time. We can complain about it. But so again, I've realized that we've derailed into this rather than focusing on Echoes of Wisdom.
At least it was a positive derail. Like
true. And it was
it.
tangentially related to Echoes of Wisdom. But I think you're right. I think we should round it off. Do you have any closing statements? Echoes of Wisdom. Can you sum it up in a sentence? How you feel about it?
Yeah, okay. You're putting me on the spot here. I don't have anything off the cuff. I'm going to see if I could. I mean, I guess just in general, I think, like I've said it already 1,000 times, it's just the right direction for Zelda. It pleases both new and old fans. And as someone who was a huge fan of just generally both, I loved the direction Tears of the Kingdom was going. We yearned for older things, but still understood what Nintendo was trying to do. And then obviously I'm a boomer, not really, but like I'm super nostalgic to the old Zelda games, and I want to relive that as well. So to me, it's the perfect marriage, and the only thing that holds it back, that does it for me, I don't care. We're both huge fans of Wind Waker and just Zelda in general, but what does hold it back obviously is the stylized choice that they went with, and it's just a shame that so many people won't experience this game
won't see past
just because of the way it looks. And to me, it's just, I hope people will eventually look past it and really give it a chance. I mean, Pokemon's a good example of how they'll just eat anything up and not complain. So hopefully Zelda has that sense. But sadly, the people I do know, they still haven't given it a shot. Like, not a single one of my brothers has even picked up the game. And like I've mentioned before in previous podcasts, some of them beat Tears of the Kingdom and loved it, and just generally love Zelda altogether. But this is a game that is just to them a spin-off, a Super Princess Peach game, which again is just, it's a major shame. I know you told me to say a sentence, went on a tangent, but yeah, what about you?
That was good though. No, that was fine. I don't know how to say anything without just reiterating what you said. It's a new hope. It's where I want Zelda to go. We'll go with that.
I like that. Yeah.
But yeah, let us all know what you think about Echoes of Wisdom.
Please.
Any of these random questions we've touched on this podcast. So, favorite dungeon, most used echoes. Let us know. We want to know everything. Sum up Echoes of Wisdom in a sentence. Go on, give us something like that. Just let us know your thoughts, because we can't get enough of talking about this game. I don't know. It's a new Zelda game. I just want to talk about it. So yeah, leave absolutely anything in the comments below.
Yeah, if there's anything you want to, because we came into this with just we played it. Let's now just hash it out.
Let's have a chat.
But like, if there's anything specifically you want us to dive into, let us know, and we can always do that for a future podcast episode as well.
Yep.
And
if you think there's something we didn't touch on enough, just let us know. Yeah, we can do more.
And we do plan on making Echoes of Wisdom content. Technically, since we don't know where it fits in the timeline, it's not really a part of the timeline playthrough, really. We might.
Well, we've got a couple of ideas on what to do with Echoes of Wisdom on the channel.
Yep. And since this video probably will come out before anything else comes out, just know that Ocarina of Time and everything will resume.
Yeah,
so
we've got
be on the lookout for that.
Got a couple episodes already recorded and stuff.
Yeah,
that'll be,
if anything, they've been collecting dust just because we've been so busy with Echoes of Wisdom. But it's like, don't worry, we have stuff. You could say, if anything, they're so burnt, they're crispy. They've been sitting in the oven for too long.
There you
my
go.
metaphor from
Stay tuned for
to,
crispy Zelda content.
Exactly, very crispy and chipsy. Man, that one didn't work. I need something that rhymes with crispy. Let us know in the comments. What's
there you go. Yeah, forget your opinions on Echoes of Wisdom and don't care about that. Rhyme with crispy.
Right.
There you go. Right.
Those comments are gonna be so confusing.
Depending on when they've left the comment, there'll be like 5 different responses. But yeah, I don't know. Thank you so much for watching this or listening to this, whatever you did. And yeah, we'll see you in the next one. Cheers, guys.
Peace.